Hello, Mountain View kids and families. This is Mrs. Martha coming to you with this week's Sunday school lesson. This lesson is for Sunday, December 20th, 2020. And this is our fourth and final Sunday of Advent, which means Christmas is this week. So I hope you're all excited. It's been a little different this year with all the lockdowns, but I trust that you and your family will still have a very blessed Christmas. Remember, you can always email me at kids@mvucc.org if you would like to get on my mailing list and get my weekly downloads. If you have any questions or prayer requests, please feel free to email me. As always, I'm using the Deep Blue Kids One Room Sunday School Curriculum published by Abingdon Press, and that's where I'm getting the material for my downloads and my weekly lesson. So for the month of December, our Bible verse comes from the book of Luke. Let me hold that up there. And it says, "This is a sign for you. You," get over here. "You will find a newborn baby wrapped snugly and lying in a manger." And that's from Luke 2:12. So it's a little hard for me to pull it that way. So you can see Joseph and Mary there and the baby. And that is our memory verse for December. So today we get to read probably our favorite Bible passage ever, and that is a story of Jesus' birth. And that's what we're celebrating this week with Christmas. So remember that Mary, Jesus' mother, was just a young girl. She was probably only 12 or 13 years old, very young. But in Bible times, girls that young got married, usually to men that were maybe 10 years or more older than them, who already were established in a job. And so Mary was a very young girl when the angel Gabriel came to her and told her that she would be the mother of the Messiah. And God chose this very simple young girl to be the one to start his whole plan of salvation for all of humanity. She trusted God and his plan. And then Joseph also was visited by an angel, and he agreed to marry Mary. And so they started their life together. And then starting in our story now this is the time when it was now the time for Mary to have her baby. So 9 months after the angel appeared. I'm going to be reading from Luke chapter 2, verses 1 through 7. I'm reading out of the Children's International Children's Bible here, and this is a version that's a little easier for kids to understand. So Luke chapter 2, verses 1 through 7. "At that time, Augustus Caesar sent an order to all people in the countries that were under Roman rule." And remember, Augustus Caesar was the man, he was the emperor, basically, of all of the Roman areas. And he lived a faraway way in Italy, which was a long way from where Joseph and Mary were in Israel, but he was in control. The order said that they must list their names in a register. This was the first registration taken while Quirinius was governor of Syria, and everyone went to their own towns to be registered. So Joseph left Nazareth, a town in Galilee. He went to the town of Bethlehem in Judea. This town was known as the town of David. Joseph went there because he was from the family of David. Joseph registered with Mary because she was engaged to marry him, and Mary was now pregnant. So Joseph and Mary had to travel from their town, Nazareth, down to the city of Bethlehem, and this was about 70 miles away. And remember, back in those days, they didn't have cars and they didn't have bicycles. They had to walk. If they were fortunate, they might have had a donkey for Mary to ride on. We usually picture Mary riding on a donkey, but they didn't necessarily have a donkey, and they had to walk quite a long way back then. So this was probably a journey that took them probably about a week. And they were traveling with a company of people, 2 people. It was not very safe to travel alone, so you usually went with a large group of people going down to register. And because Joseph was of the family line of David, he had to go to Bethlehem. And Mary was of David's family line too, so they had to go there and register. Verse 6. "While Joseph and Mary were in Bethlehem, the time came for her to have the baby. She gave birth to her first son. There were no rooms left in the inn. So she wrapped the baby with cloths and laid him in a box where animals are fed, and that's called the manger. So remember, there were lots of people coming to the city. Everyone who was descended from David's line had to go to Bethlehem, and Bethlehem was just a little tiny town with many people coming to it. And so for whatever reason, Joseph and Mary got there too late to go and get a room in an inn, and so they were offered a barn, or probably more like a cave, where they kept the animals, and that was where Jesus was born. Now, Joseph and Mary weren't late because they just were late. They were late because that's the way God wanted it to be born. For whatever reason, they arrived there, and Jesus was born in a stable. And I think this was all God's plan, because he didn't want him born in anything resembling comfort or riches. He was born in just about the lowest place he could be born, the most humble place, which is a barn, not even a place we would want to spend our time in. But Joseph and Mary were thankful for a place to stay that was warm and had a roof over their heads, and they were thankful to have their baby born there. And because there was no crib or anything, they just put him in the animal feeding box, and that's where Jesus was born. So one of the lowest, most humble of births, and that was where God chose for his son to be born. And the important thing I think about that is it shows that God, not only did he become human so that he could identify with us, but it showed that he was just an ordinary, lower class human being. He had no riches, no status, and so he can identify with all of us. He wasn't a rich person born in a palace, but he was just a normal, ordinary person. And God did that on purpose. People had waited many, many years for Jesus, the Messiah, to be born. And through this birth of Jesus, God's plan of salvation started. So being born as a human in a very humble place shows us that he cares for us and our problems, because he was born as a human and he knew what it was like to be human, to be hungry, to be tired. And so Jesus can identify with us, and we can identify with him. We know that he understands what it's like to be a human as well. And so I think that's a really important thing, not to mention that this is the story, the very beginning of God's plan of salvation. We know Jesus would grow up and of course die on the cross for us, and that was the most important thing. But Jesus had to come and be born, and so this was the very beginning of God's plan of salvation. So it's such a beautiful story. It makes it just a pleasure to read it and enjoy it every single year. Now for our craft this week, in your downloads, you're going to get these 2 pages here, and then you can print those out and color them and cut them out, and I've already done that here. So you're going to need your crayons or colored pencils, and I've already colored and cut these pieces out. This is the straw, that's the manger, and then here's baby Jesus. I'm dropping things here. And then what you're going to need is you're going to need a glue stick or a bottle of glue. You're going to need a hole punch and some ribbon. So I'm going to glue this together here. So you start with, I guess it goes like that. You can see the instructions on your paper here. It shows you how to assemble it down here. So I'm going to glue the manger onto the present. Let's see how we want to do that. Just like that. And then I'm going to glue the straw on. So we've got the straw inside the manger, like that. And then I'm going to glue baby Jesus in the straw, like that. So we've got that, and the good thing about glue sticks is if you want to move it around, you can do that a little bit. It says God's gift to all people, and then you just punch a hole right here in the top, not too close to the edge because you don't want it to tear. there's my hole. And then you just thread your string or ribbon, whatever you want, through that. And then you can just tie the ends together, or you could glue them together, however you want. Get this tied. I like to have kind of a long string, so it makes it easier to put it over your tree. And there you have a nice ornament that you can put on the tree. If you want, you can put your name and the year 2020 on the back, and then you can save that. Your parents probably like having ornaments that you make every year. They pull them out every year, even when you're a grown-up and they want to embarrass you. But they will do that. So here's a nice ornament for you to make, and that will be in your crafts, in your downloads this week. So that is our lesson and our craft for this week. So let's pray. Dear Jesus, we thank you so much for the gift of your Son. We thank you that you sent him as a human so that he understands us and we can know that he cares for us. We thank you that you sent him just as an ordinary person to ordinary people so that he does understand what it's like to not have a lot of things. And we thank you that this was your plan of salvation. We thank you for Jesus growing up and dying for us so that we can go and be in heaven with you. We thank you for this beautiful plan of salvation that you have. I pray your blessing on each child this week as we celebrate Christmas, and ask that your blessing will be on each child and each family. In your name I pray, amen. All right, well, thank you for watching my lesson. Remember, you can always email me at kids@mvucc.org to get on my mailing list. And be sure and like, share, and subscribe our Mountain View Kids Fontana YouTube channel. So have a blessed week and Merry Christmas. Bye-bye.